Don't need those faces in your magazines. We've got no time for hesitation. We won't believe in contemplating. There's no reason now. You need to set it right. There's a chance to be, so don't be tongue-tied. Just wait a minute, boy, wait a minute. If you're gonna move, come on, don't keep it to yourself. No need to take it now from anybody else. You're gonna move. Come on. You're gonna move, come on, don't keep it for yourself. No need for recognizing anybody else. You're gonna move.
Hello, good evening, and welcome, everybody. I am Miriam Castro, and I am honored to be your MC for tonight's Transit for All Answer the Call virtual event. And I am coming to you live from Chicago, and I am thrilled to spend the next hour together to celebrate and raise funds that will create affordable, walkable, bike-friendly, vibrant communities connected by great transit. On behalf of everybody at TCC, thank you for spending your evening with us. Transportation Choices Coalition would like to acknowledge that tonight we gather on the unceded lands of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Duwamish, a people that are still here and still fighting for federal recognition. And I acknowledge that I am on the land of the Kickapoo and the Peoria. Mobility for all cannot be achieved without recognizing and honoring those who first navigated these spaces. And as we work together, building a more accessible world, let us be mindful that we do so on stolen land. Tonight, we honor, with gratitude, the land which we occupy and the Native communities, past, present, and future, who live and thrive here. We also need to acknowledge the senseless deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, Elijah McClain, Jacob Blake, Dion Kizzee, and other Black Americans, and recognize that the injustice of their lost lives is part of a deep and shameful history of anti-Black violence and white supremacy in the United States. Racism, police violence, and structural inequity are also transportation problems. And as transportation advocates, planners, engineers, decision and policymakers, we must take an anti-racist approach to our work. So in this vein, our work must be accessible. I'd like to draw your attention to our open captioning and introduce tonight's interpreters, Lori Reinhardt and Elizabeth Rothman. Thank you for being here, and thank you for helping us ensure that everyone can understand and participate in tonight's activities. All right, 2 important numbers that you need to know. Our goal for tonight is $30,000. That's what we need to support this amazing organization. 30,000 is a big number, I get that. But I know we can do it because we are in this together. The second number is how we are going to reach that goal. 44321, text transit to 44321, and you are on your way to making a donation. You'll need a couple of things. You'll need your phone and your credit card. So do whatever you need to do to round those things up, keep them close, keep them handy. My friends in chat will remind you periodically throughout the night, as will I, but no need to wait for us. When you feel so moved, text transit to 44321 and make a gift. So I want to acknowledge that we are in unprecedented times. I am here, you are there, and as much as we all love to be together in the same room to celebrate, we can't. But that doesn't mean we still can't have fun tonight. And if you haven't already, use the chat. Let's say hi to everybody. Don't be shy. Ask us questions, share ideas, drop an emoji. Let us know how you're doing and how you're feeling. The more that you hoop, holler, and carry on over there, the more that I hoop, holler, and carry on right over here. All right. So let's get something going in the chat. And I already see it's already blowing up. So this is great. Using emojis. We transportation people love to ask this question. Describe your favorite transportation combo, mixing it up a little bit. I like the bike share to the bus, and then a broom for the last mile. It is October after all, and these are unprecedented times, so anything goes. So maybe for you, it's speed walking to your gondola, and then maybe you like to saddle up the frog, or I don't know, taking a horse to your hovercraft. Let's see what you got. I want to see some fun transportation combos in the chat. Keep it coming. Let's see what you got. Oh, I see a bike to the train. That's one of my personal favorites. A frog, and I think that is a somebody, maybe a pogo stick or something. All sorts of fun transportation options and combos. This is so fantastic. Keep it coming. Let's keep the energy up. Now, a couple of things I want to point out to you. Our materials. This is the Transfer for All Answer the Call official program. We have our run of show if you would like to keep on top of what we are doing tonight. And we also have our funding levels, our giving levels on here so you can know exactly what your gift will support. All right. Some guests also got this handy dandy bingo card. So if you got this, go and find it. It's time to play bingo. So keep this handy, grab a pen, and let's play bingo. Alrighty. Other ways that you can connect with us tonight is via social media. We are on Twitter, and we're on Facebook, and we are Instagram. And as you can see, our handles are rolling at the bottom of the screen here. And then our chat captains will also put them in chat so you can easily link to us. And so find us, tag us, follow us, drop in some photos, react with us on social media. We want to have a great time with you tonight. All righty. So I think I am supposed to be getting a call right now. And I think I am. Let's see. Hello. Hey. Oh, hello. Hey, Charla. Hey, everybody. It is TCC's incoming board president who has something that they'd like to say. Take it away, Charla.
Hey, Miriam. I'm Charla Skaggs, and I'm the incoming board president for TCC, and I'd like to thank some people who are critical to our mission. First up, for our sponsors. Without you, we couldn't have done it tonight, and we're grateful. So to Vulcan, HNTB, Amazon, Jacobs, Mall Foster Alonji, Parametrics, WSP, Fair & Peers, CDM Smith, Symetra, and Smart Growth. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Next up, I want to thank 3 people for 6 years and a whole lot of work. Anne Freeman Manzanares, Rob Berman, and Barb Wilson are coming to the end of their term on the board of directors. Thank you for investing so much in our mission. Special shout out to Rob Berman, who's been president of the board for 3 years. Each of us has personal reasons why we believe in the mission of TCC. One of mine is my nephew Fletcher, who has cerebral palsy. I want Fletch to have equitable access to reliable transportation so he can live the life that he wants to live. I hope you'll think about your personal reasons and give as generously as you can so we can further the mission of TCC in our region. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much, Charla, for reminding me and reminding all of us that we all have reasons why transportation is important. We are so grateful to the TCC board for their guidance and their leadership, and thanks to everyone that makes TCC's work possible. Thanks to you, thanks to our staff and our volunteers and our partners who are here tonight. Let's also thank our elected officials for joining us. You are working hard on so many things. You're working hard for climate and for health, for housing, for equity, and of course, you're working hard for transit. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for making tonight special. And with that, we have a message from Governor Inslee. Let's roll that message.
Hi everyone, Governor Jay Inslee here. Thanks for choosing to be here today. COVID-19 may have forced us to connect virtually this year, but it has not diminished the importance of supporting great transportation choices for Washingtonians across the state. First, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to so many transit operators, agencies, and personnel who've continued to play an essential role in our state in these difficult circumstances. Our transit community led the charge to maintain safe operations during this pandemic, and I'm so grateful to them and to TCC for supporting these critical efforts. And it truly is an essential service. This is clear. This pandemic lifted the curtain on just how many Washingtonians rely on transit. We know the reliance on quality transit for essential travel is just going to continue to grow as we recover and as more and more people choose to call Washington home. These last few weeks have shown us another thing. That is the stark reality that we are already feeling the sting of a changing climate. The fires that have devastated so many communities and poisoned our air, we know has been exacerbated and fueled by climate change. So to protect our state, we have simply got to act by the agencies in our power to reduce and ultimately eliminate greenhouse gas emissions over time, or as close as we can get. Transportation is our biggest culprit in Washington. I'm deeply grateful for the work TCC has done to support policies that reduce pollution from fossil fuels, that increase transit services, and help foster healthy, thriving communities in our state. Like climate change, we know we must rise to face down another great threat, and that's inequity throughout our society. Accessible, reliable transportation options are critical to those efforts. From the urban Puget Sound to rural Yakima, access to transit as well as safe bicycle and pedestrian programs create opportunities, connects people with jobs, school, family, friends, and it's a critical part of our statewide recovery. So I am grateful TCC recognizes and works on policies, programs, and funding that promote equity in transportation. Like so many in Washington right now, transit agencies are faced with an unprecedented budget challenge. But know that I am absolutely committed to transit and active transportation options that provide clean, reliable, and equitable choices for Washingtonians. So despite losing funding from I-976, I continue to support services for special needs and rural Washingtonians. And I know the central role transit must play in our state's future. So, we know we have our work cut out for us. But thanks in part to the work of organizations like TCC, I'm confident our best days are ahead. And we will get there by bike, by bus, by train, by foot, by electric car, by ferry, and by the work we do together. So good luck. I hope you'll mask up, wash your hands, be healthy, be safe. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Governor Inslee. And Governor Inslee said 2 points that really resonated with me. Equitable access to transportation creates opportunity, and it's critical to our recovery, and we must rise. And that's why we're all here. So for those of you that don't know me, I met TCC in 2015 when I worked with the UW's Transportation Services. In 2017, I had the privilege of working with TCC on a transportation project in the U District. And around the time I finished working on that project, Alex Hudson joined the team. And while I only had the honor of working with her for a few short months, I learned enough about her to know the type of leader that she is. And we are expecting a call from Alex any moment, and we're going to have the opportunity to catch up and learn about the work. For those of you that don't know Alex, she is a dynamic individual. She's energetic, she's passionate, and she has the most amazing sense of humor. And Alex knows the work, like really and truly knows the work. Like spend 5 minutes with her and you'll know more about transportation policy than you thought you needed to know. I wonder who this could be. Hello, Oh, hello, Alex. We were just talking about you. Join me on screen. Let's have a chat. Well, hello there.
How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing tonight?
I'm well. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Let's get into our questions, all right? So, Alex, 2020 has been a bruising year across the board. Tell me, what has COVID-19, the reckoning against racism, and the quickening pace of climate disaster meant for transit?
Yeah, 2020 has been just a tremendous year of change and has been very difficult for our transit agencies. I think that's the most important thing to acknowledge. But they've been fighting hard. They've been pivoting. A lot of agencies creating brand new programs and services that meet riders' needs. They have had lost ridership. There have been down revenues. They have had increased costs. Their frontline staff, our transit operators, are showing up every day to make it all happen, all at the same time while they've been, trying to deliver service for people who really count on it. But amidst all that hardships, there's three things that we've, really learned through all of this. And the first is that transit is essential, right? Every day, here in King County alone, 150,000 transit rider trips are made. A third of all of Seattle's essential workforce is a transit rider. Transit is absolutely critical for a functioning economy and is a strong and vitally important part of any decent society. The second is that transportation is and always has been an issue about racial justice. 60% of transit riders are people of color, and they make up the absolute foundation of who transit is for. So to have, to get to a world that is free from white supremacy and systemic racism, we not only need to have good transit service, but we need to really address issues like policing and other things that show up in our transit system. And the third is that the climate crisis is real. It is not a hypothetical thing that is happening in the future. It is a very real thing that is here with us today. As the governor said, it's really important that transit helps to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and other air pollutions, and that transit infrastructure is clean and green. If we're going to have a humane economy and healthy people and a livable planet, transit is as important now as it has ever been.
That sounds like a really daunting set of complex problems coming together at the same time. And so how have TCC and your partners been responding?
TCC has been doing what we do best, which is bringing people together to solve really sticky problems. In addition to the work that we are already doing, TCC immediately brought together a weekly video conference that brings together transit agencies, transportation departments, and advocates to share information and start to strategize about how the heck we're going to get out of these messes. And through that, we've created a shared vision, both at the state level and a transportation recovery framework that TCC released just this week. So I hope people will take a look at that.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like there's been a lot of work put into creating coalitions and developing that framework. Congratulations, by the way. And this sounds like a great pathway towards a better future. And so what's next?
What's next is we're going to need to fight for every dollar. Our decision makers have no easy decisions and really harsh realities in front of them. But what we know is that we need to repair the holes that COVID has ripped in our transit agencies' budgets. We need to restore the funding that was lost through Initiative 976 last year, and we need to reform transportation funding so that it is adequate and resilient. And this needs to happen at the local, the state, and the federal level. And ways that we can do that are by passing new revenue streams. We're exploring carbon pricing, putting a cost on pollution, road pricing like congestion pricing and road usage charge that really put full cost accounting into driving. And importantly, here in Seattle, we need to pass Proposition 1 and continue the Seattle Transportation Benefit District. We need to, build power for change. We need to have an intersectional coalition that centers racial equity so that transportation just like every other aspect of our society, that those disparities, those racist disparities that we see are corrected, and we need to bring together the broadest coalition possible to do that. That's why I am so grateful to everybody who is joining us tonight, because I do agree with what Governor Inslee said. I do believe in my heart of hearts that our brightest days are still in front of us, and I know that all of us here have the power to make that possible if we, keep the faith.
I love that, Alex. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed with the challenges that TCC is working on solving. And personally, it's reassuring to know that the work can be done when we do it together. So thank you, Alex. We will see you later.
Thanks, Miriam.
All right, it is time for our first official vibe check. How are you doing? You guys having fun so far? Have you enjoyed hearing from Alex and Charla and Governor Inslee, 3 heavy hitters for transit? Anything in particular stand out for you? If so, let us know. And it looks like we got a great conversation in the chat. So please keep it up. Please having a great time. And it sounds like we're having a great time. And I am too. There's nothing more exciting than raising funds for an organization that we care so much about. I am feeling so inspired. And tonight is all about acting on that inspiration through supporting the great work that TCC is doing. Do you remember how easy it is to give? You just need your phone and you need to text transit to 44321 to make a gift in support of this great work. All right, speaking of, let's check in on our progress. Can we cue the official thermometer? Let's get that up on the screen here. All right, this is amazing. Together, we've already raised $2,485. I am so impressed. That is so amazing. Thank you all so much. And as you continue to give, the thermometer will continue to fill up. Every gift counts towards the goal. So go ahead and get your phone, text transit to 44321. Let's start making progress. Let's do it together. I want you to know that your gift will be confidential. We are not going to share any names. We're only going to share our collective progress. So thank you for your support. This is fantastic. Keep it coming. I also want to share some amazing news. We have a match pool tonight. As Charla mentioned earlier, the TCC board has pledged to give, and they are joined by Enviro Issues, EMC Research, and Barbara and Dwight to create a $5,000 match pool. Here's how it works. Every time we get to a $5,000 benchmark, our match donors will kick in $1,000 to help us out. So our first benchmark is $5,000. Please text transit to 44321. Let's do this together. All right. Now that we've met TCC's leader, it's time to meet its staff. TCC is a small organization. It's just 6 people working tirelessly for affordable, walkable, bike-friendly communities connected by great transit. And they want to share with you some of the dedication, passion, and creativity that they use to get the job done. And tonight, they are racing buses to Olympia. Literally, they are racing buses. Have I piqued your curiosity? I think we need to check this out. Let's see what they're up to. Roll the video.
TCC, what are you guys doing?
Oh, hey Alex, we're just preparing for a race to Olympia. You want to join us?
Yeah, totally, but why are we racing to Olympia?
Well, normally we promote safe speeds, but this is really urgent. We're racing to Olympia because otherwise people are going to be waiting for buses that never show up.
Oh man, why won't the buses come? Oh, there's so much in our way. We have a global pandemic, we have Tim Eyman, systemic racism, and car culture, and that's why we need to keep fighting for transit.
Yeah, that's why I'm here racing for policies that reduce climate pollution, improve community health, and make way for economic recovery.
What are you riding for?
Well, I'm in green, so I'm racing for money because we need sustainable, progressive revenue sources so that we have resilient transit systems in good times and bad times.
What about you, Keiko? What are you racing for?
I'm racing for community because we need to keep transit systems that put people first and connect us to opportunities and to each other.
Nice. Let's go!
All right, riders,
Are you ready to race to Olympia?
Yeah!
Are you ready to race for transit?
Yeah!
All right, start your engines. On your marks, get set, go!
I can already tell that this is going to be a really close race. And in the spirit of competition, I gotta know, what priority are you cheering on? Blue for policy, green for money, or red for community? Tell me in the chat, but let's make it fun. Tell me in emojis. So Team Blue, drop in some blue emojis, maybe a blue heart, a blue wave, a blue cloud, anything that's blue. I wanna visually see where you're at. Team Green, Team Money, make it rain, drop some clovers in there. I know there's some frogs. I know there's a green heart, anything green. Team Community, Team Red, show me where you're at. I know for sure there's a chili pepper in there. I also know there's a red stiletto. So drop that in there. Let's keep up this energy tonight and keep the party going in the chat. And can't wait for part 2 to see where everybody lands. All right. Oh, I see a red heart. Keep it coming. I see some money. Yep. Good. Seeing a lot of red here. Think maybe people are onto something. I don't know. But anyways, this looks fun. Keep it going up. All right. So earlier we thanked our elected officials. Imagine how hard they are working this year, even more so than usual. And we are in the middle of the biggest economic, climate, health, and equity crisis of our time. And they are working so hard to get us through. We're going to roll a clip for you, and when you see your elected official, let us know. Roll the clip.
Transportation Choices has been a critical partner in helping me be successful as a state senator and as vice chair of transportation.
Transportation Choices Coalition is important to the work I'm doing because you are leading the fight to make our community and our state a leader in equitable access to transportation.
We are on the cusp now in East King County of having an explosion of options all over our cities through light rail, bus rapid transit on the freeways connecting to an ever-tightening net of metro service, and none of that would have been possible without significant support and advocacy from TCC.
2020 has given us no shortage of crises and hurt. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm grateful that I get to roll up my sleeves and work alongside TCC and all of you.
This pandemic lifted the curtain on just how many Washingtonians rely on transit.
Essential workers on the front lines fighting against this global pandemic have continued to rely on transit as a critical service. They need transit and we need them.
As we recover from the economic hardship of COVID-19, affordable and convenient options for daily trips to work or school will be crucial.
So we've got to make sure that local transportation authorities have the funds and the resources they need to resume full operations safely.
There are so many important issues to address right now, and TCC makes sure transit and mobility is always a priority in the conversation.
It's good to see TCC making an investment in time with legislators in Olympia.
We've seen the devastation in this past summer of what happens when climate change goes unchecked. And being able to have the policies to address these issues is paramount. So thank you for you and your organization.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for TCC's strong vision and for joining the coalition in the fight for more and better transportation choices for all.
Yes, we can and we must do this.
As our elected stated, there are so many important issues today that need addressing now more than ever, and transportation options are among them. So we've got some hard times ahead, but I feel a lot better knowing that TCC and our electeds are working hard in Olympia and locally to see us through. So speaking of seeing us through, I think it's time we check our progress because I know you all have been giving this whole time, and that's so exciting. So let's pull up the thermometer. And I also know that we have unlocked our first match. So let's add the match to our progress. Huge thank you to the TCC Board, Enviro Issues, EMC Research, and Barbara and Dwight for supporting our match. This is so exciting. Thank you so much. And I see now that it's been refreshed. This is so amazing. So our next benchmark, and I know we can do it, is $11,000. So if you haven't given, now's the time. Grab your phone and text transit to 44321 to help us reach our goal. So perhaps you're waiting to see who we're inducting into the Transportation Hall of Fame before you give your gift. Well, now's the time. Let's induct some amazing people, programs, and organization into TCC's Transportation Hall of Fame. If you are an inductee, or if you know an inductee, let's celebrate them in the chat box. Shout them out. Let them know how much you appreciate them, because that's what the Hall of Fame is all about, recognizing that their hard work helps every one of us. Let's roll the clip.
Let's begin the 2020 Transportation Hall of Fame inductions. First is recent King County General Manager Rob Gannon. Rob recently stepped down as General Manager, and we want to thank him for his 4 years of service. In his tenure, Rob created an equity cabinet and mobility framework to ensure our transit system is centering the needs of communities of color, low-income communities, and people with disabilities. Rob made Metro a nationally recognized transit agency. He is a great partner to TCC, and we'll miss his leadership. Next is Community Transit CEO Emmett Heath. He is retiring after 15 years at Community Transit. Emmett focused his work around community-oriented transit service, connecting people to opportunities in Snohomish County, and creating a long-term vision of transit expansion. He built up the Swift Bus Rapid Transit, and throughout the pandemic, he centered essential travel for those who need it most. Emmett is a great partner to TCC, and we'll miss his leadership. A message from Emmett.
I'm really proud to have had a long and successful 40-plus year career in public transit. I think the thing that's kept me in the business is that people are always going to want to get from where they are to where they want to be. And those places they want to be are important places in their life. And public transportation has always played an important role in making it easier for people to get to those important places. It contributes to their quality of life, and I feel good about having had the opportunity to play a role in that. It is a fabulous honor to be inducted into the TCC's Hall of Fame. I want to thank the TCC for inducting me to the Hall of Fame. I want to thank them for years of partnership with community transit and advocacy for the industry. How I feel is immensely honored to be included with a group of colleagues who I have seen inducted in previous years. I've been to a number of previous annual galas. I've seen a number of folks inducted, and to think that my years of service are acknowledged in the same vein as those who have come before me in the Hall of Fame is it's a career honor. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Next is the Small Urban, Rural, and Tribal Center on Mobility. CERTCOM is a U.S. Department of Transportation Tier 1 University Transportation Center that combines work at Montana State University, North Dakota State University, and Eastern Washington University. CERTCOM shares TCC's vision of making mobility options accessible to all, and plays a critical role in focusing on the mobility needs of tribal communities and rural communities in Eastern Washington and beyond. CERTCOM conducts research and education around tribal and rural transportation, focusing on the specific mobility needs of each community. We learned about CERTCOM's work through our relationships with tribal transportation organizations such as the Nakanee Native Program, the Affiliated Tribes of Northwest Indians Conference, and during our recent transit chat on tribal transportation. Thank you for your dedication to mobility access and equity for all. Finally, we welcome the Alliance for a Just Society. Their mission is to execute local, state, and national campaigns and build strong state affiliate organizations and partnerships that address economic, racial, and social inequities. Their campaign to save public transit helped establish the common understanding that transit is essential, and it is an essential part of any congressional COVID relief package. A message from Leanne.
I've been honored to work with all of you on the emergency campaign for transit justice. The COVID-19 pandemic and the economic and social catastrophe that has followed revealed the economic and racial inequities in our society. The public transit crisis comes on top of the historic disinvestment in our public institutions and resources. The way forward is a national public reconstruction project. Many of you are fighting for fully funded transit, ensuring that it is accessible to all our neighborhoods. We need to continue to fight for public transit because it is the lifeblood of an ecologically sound economy, and it is at the core of creating racial equity in our communities. It is, as Jermaine Alberto Gooding said at the National Rally to Save Public Transit, to me, transit has always been about access and exposure. Who gets to have access to our cities? Who gets to be exposed to different neighborhoods and opportunities? This is why, from Plessy versus Ferguson to the Montgomery bus boycott till today, public transit is a racial justice issue. Our transportation systems play a key role in creating a racially just, economically and ecologically sound reconstruction. Let's keep the pressure on and ensure a public transit system that works for all of us.
Congratulations and welcome to TCC's Transportation Hall of Fame. You are part of an ongoing legacy of transit champions. And I think we all can agree that we need transit champions now more than ever. Transit agencies across the nation have faced one of the hardest hits. But Washington transit agencies didn't let the pandemic stop them from being a lifeline to their communities. You all went above and beyond. Not only did you adapt and continue offering the safest mobility options for riders and operators, you also became mobile hotspots, and you helped make sure that elders in our community had food. So thank you so much. And with that, let's check in on our progress. Yes, let's pull up the thermometer. All right, we are at $9,000 and some change. This is so amazing. Thank you so much for being so generous. We are not done yet. We really need to get to our next match level, which is $11,000, to unlock another $1,000 from our generous match donors. So please text transit to 44321 and get your gift going. Okay, so remember the TCC staff racing buses to Olympia? Let's check in and see how they are doing, but remind me, who are you rooting for? Drop it in the chat. Blue for policy, green for money, or red for community. Let's roll that clip.
All right, folks, let's check in on our racers on their way to Olympia, see how things are going. Community, heading off towards highway spending. No, I don't think so. That's the wrong direction. There is no future in the past. 976, tight turn. This could really spell disaster if we're not careful. And it has. Funding totally derailed. Community, thank you for that helping hand. It really does take all of us. All right, here we go. Congestion corridor. What a waste of resources. Transit cannot be efficient if it is stuck in all this traffic. Bus only bypass. There we go. That's excellent use of sustainable infrastructure spending. COVID-19 tunnel, folks. Who could have seen this coming? They have gone in, but what is on the other side? You're just going to have to stay tuned to find out.
Oh my gosh, this race, the COVID tunnel. Things look really close. And don't they look like they are having so much fun? So I just want to let you know that tonight has been really fun. Celebrating transit with you has been really fun. And getting to where we need to go is the absolute best. It's freedom that makes our life and our very existence possible. And many of us on this call enjoy the benefits of an affordable, walkable, bike-friendly, vibrant community that is connected by great transit, and we have TCC to thank for much of the progress in our region. When I moved to Chicago 2 years ago, I spent the first few months, naturally, comparing transportation options between Chicago and Seattle. Chicago's L train runs all day and all night. I know this because I live directly next to the Red Line and I heard it all night long. It just keeps showing up. Seattle has more transit-only lanes and better bike share options, but Chicago has 2 train systems and one can get you out to the suburbs. Seattle has a great bike network and the Orca card, but Chicago is hardcore. Do y'all remember that polar vortex? CTA workers lit the train tracks on fire so the train could keep showing up to get people to where they needed to go. And then do you remember earlier this year when COVID hit? Of course, I mean, who can forget that? But do you remember when it first hit and everything came to a standstill? Guess what? In Chicago, the trains kept coming. And for a long time, there wasn't anybody on board, but it kept showing up. And as the days and the weeks and the months passed, people started taking transit again. But it was a different crowd than I usually saw. I saw people in uniforms, neon construction clothing. I saw people in scrubs. Our essential workers who we rely on, who don't have the privilege of working from home. Transit keeps showing up for people who need it, not only in Chicago and Seattle, but all over the nation. And COVID-19 has illuminated the disparities that are already existing, resulting from systemic impacts of racism. It exists in our laws, in our institutions, in our systems, in our infrastructure, including our transit infrastructure that essential workers rely upon. That's why an equitable, reliable, safe, and affordable transportation system that keeps showing up and keeps providing access to jobs, economic stability, affordable health care, education, housing, and services is critical. But we must rise. And it is time that we show up for transit and we show up and support transportation choices. TCC needs your support to be able to do this work. And that's why I'm asking you to make a gift that is meaningful to you so that TCC can continue the important work that you know it is capable of doing. And as Alex said earlier, TCC is fighting for a fair transportation system that centers racial equity, creates sustainable, affordable, and healthy transportation options, and secures sustainable, progressive funding to get it all done. And that's what this is all about. So if you've been waiting, now is the time. Show TCC some love. Show them your support. Right now is the time to give. So please, get your phones. Answer the call for transit. Answer the call for TCC. Text transit to 44321. Let's get that thermometer up on the screen here and see what we have. Oh my goodness gracious, we are at $11,731. And my friends behind the scenes have told me that we have unlocked another match. So let's refresh that and add that match to our progress. And thank you so much to our match pool donors, TCC board, Enviro Issues, EMC Research, Barbara and Dwight. Thank you so very much. And if you haven't given, now's your chance. If you've already given, can you give again? We are almost there and we are doing this together. And that's so exciting that you are all showing up for transit when transit needs you the most. And with that, it is time for me to make my gift as well. So I am going to text transit to 44321. I'm going to do that right now. 44321. Transit sent my message. I just got an email or a message back. I'm going to click on that link and I'm going to click on donate now. And then I'm going to choose a gift that is doable and meaningful to me and my family. All right, I'm gonna click donate right now. I've already got Apple Pay loaded into my phones to make it really easy. There we go. Payment made. And I want to say thank you to you for your gifts. We are all in this together. We're doing this together, and that is so exciting, but we are not done yet. Keep going. Keep showing up for transit, and keep sending your support. So now is a great time to introduce you to a friend of TCC. Calvin Gladney is the CEO of Smart Growth America and a thought leader on equitable revitalization of communities, including housing and transportation policy. Calvin envisions a country where no matter where you live or who you are, you can enjoy living in a place that is healthy, prosperous, and resilient. In fact, right on time. That might be him.
All right, thanks.
Hello. Calvin,
Hi.
you are here. We are so excited to hear what you have to say. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, Miriam. And thanks to everybody who has donated tonight. And thanks for taking the time out to work with this great organization. And just wanted to have a little fun and spend a little time with you this evening talking about transportation. As Miriam said, my name is Calvin Gladney, and I'm President and CEO of Smart Growth America. Wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction to Smart Growth America itself, as well as just talk about transportation. Let me just put my screen on here. Great. So, and just in case you guys are on the Twitter, as one might say, that's my Twitter handle, @SmartGrowthCEO. But wanted to talk to you today about what I'll call no more transportation nice, and talk about how and where to fight. And thanks again for taking the time out to spend a little time. Miriam just talked about our North Star, envisioning a country where no matter where you live or who you are, you can enjoy living in a place that's healthy, prosperous, and resilient. That is the reason why Smart Growth America exists. That's the sort of final outcome all of our work is attuned to achieving. And many of you may have heard of Smart Growth America, but you may have heard of some of the sort of our family members, as I like to call them, Transportation for America, our National Complete Streets Coalition, our State Smart Transportation Initiative, and our Locust team. All of those are part of Smart Growth America, and it's part of the reason why we have a kind of interdisciplinary, interconnected approach to revitalizing communities and getting to that North Star. So you guys are transportation folks. And one of the reasons I wanted to call this conversation today, No More Transportation Nice, is, look guys, we're in a fight. This is not the time for niceties. This is a fight. And I wanted to talk to you about not only working on transportation, but I wanted to go to thinking about, actually, let me get this screen full screen. Sorry about that. It looks like it's not displaying properly according to there we go. Okay, perfect. So most of you guys are transportation professionals, transportation advocates, and so you spend a lot of time thinking about transportation and things like headways. And so making sure that folks like this woman doesn't have to spend 35 minutes and spending all their time on Facebook sitting and waiting for the next bus. So you focus on that, you focused on transportation, and you're fighting on those issues. You might be fighting for beautification underneath overpasses. And from my research, this actually may have been something that our good friend Alex Hudson worked on many moons ago. But what I want to do for you and talk to you about today is, and this is the context of being no more nice, is I want you guys to think bigger. We're in a fight. You're in a fight. And your fight is not just about transportation. It's bigger than that. It's really, and I know right now it's a little bit of a dumpster fire in many ways. This is actually the Cleveland fire on the Cuyahoga River. But I want you to think bigger than just transportation. I want you to reimagine both who you are and what you're fighting on. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I want you to think bigger. I don't want you to make little plans, because as the great saying goes, they have no magic to stir anyone's blood. So if we're going to think bigger, I want right now for you to say to yourself, I'm no longer a transportation professional. I'm no longer a transportation advocate. I'm no longer the transit supporter. What I'm fighting on is bigger than that. I'm fighting for, and let's start here, I'm fighting for the planet. So you work on transportation, you say, well, what does that have to do with this larger fight for the planet? Well, many of you probably know that transportation is the largest cause of greenhouse gas emissions in all the sectors, 29%, as you can see on the screen there. And as a matter of fact, not only is it the largest emitter of greenhouse gases, 83% of those transportation emissions come from driving. So all of the work that you do to give transportation choices, see what I did there, has an effect on mitigating and reducing the effect of climate change because of reduced greenhouse gases. So your fight is not just on transportation. Everything you do on a daily basis, all your support, your advocacy, and your work on a day-to-day actually is a fight for the planet. And so I want you to think about yourself in that context. You might see a screen like, you see a picture like this, and if you recognize this, this is I-5, and this is I-5 going through and demolishing a community. And frankly, everyone knows that I-5 basically split Seattle in two. And don't worry, this is not just a Seattle issue. You can go to Austin and show neighborhoods, particularly communities of neighborhoods where members of minority groups or communities of color live. You'll see that there. You'll see this in Overton in Miami, where an African-American longstanding community, sort of the Harlem of the South, as they call it, the highway went through there. And you might ask yourself, how does this happen? Why does this happen? If I'm fighting on transportation and I'm fighting locally and I'm trying to do these things, how can highways and overpasses still cut through neighborhoods indiscriminately? And part of the reason, again, is reimagining who you are and what you're fighting on. You're not just a transportation professional. You're not just a climate change advocate or professional. You also are someone who is fighting with the feds. I need for you guys to not just fight locally or at the state level. I need you to fight with the feds. I need you to swim upstream. And this is why. So when you see those highways, you see those type of investments, and you say, how come that hasn't happened in terms of transportation choices and public transit rather than highways and the situation like I-5? And that's because we have to advocate at the federal level. Oftentimes, we've already lost the fight if we can't change the rules at the federal level. And I'm just going to give you two examples of the type of federal advocacy and federal fight you must engage in. First one is what the feds pay for. And we call this the federal cost share, but essentially the way things are structured now, if a state or a city wants to build a road, the feds will pay 80 to 90% of the costs. But if you go to the feds and say, hey, as opposed to that, I want to do public transportation, public transit, then they only pay 50% of the cost. So you can see what the incentives are there. And that's how you get more of the I-5s, more of the highways, more of the roadways, and less of the public transit that your constituencies need and deserve. The second is federal funding formulas, which is another sort of, inside a baseball detail, but it's something you need to know. And again, now thinking about yourselves as a federal advocate and not just a local transportation advocate. Right now, the federal funding formulas focus on vehicle miles traveled, or VMT. So if the rules focus on VMT, that means if your state or local decision maker is trying to figure out how to get the most money, building a roadway or a highway or an overpass, essentially an I-5 through a neighborhood, will actually get them more money than any other formula. And it's discretionary on the locality's behalf to spend money on transit or bike or other type of PED transportation investments. And so we got to change those federal formulas. You got to become and think of yourself as an advocate, not just locally on the state level, but at the federal level, because if you don't fight upstream and change those rules at the top, you get those kind of local results at the bottom where you get an I-5 that ruins Chinatown, that ruins neighborhoods and changes the history of your city. So that's another fight I wanted to talk to you about. And then finally, and it's very sad, the unjust killing of George Floyd, and you can see the "I can't breathe" there. And I put that on there just not to be provocative in an evening to make you think about it, but also because I can't breathe is a metaphor for the last fight that you need to engage in. So you're not just a transportation professional. You're not just a climate change professional. You are also a health advocate. You're also a health professional. This fight that we're in is also a fight for health. So as you're working on transportation issues, think about yourself as a health advocate as well. And let me just quickly talk to you about why. So as an example, the CDC released a study that said minorities experience higher exposure to traffic-related air pollution. So not only are you fighting for the health of people of color, usually Black and brown communities, and particularly African-American communities. And this traffic-related air pollution results in asthma, results in high blood pressure, results in actually heart disease. And so think about your fight for all these transportation issues and know that you're also fighting for the health of Black and brown communities. And when you're fighting for those communities, it's not just a sheer health issue, it's a health and equity issue. It's a racial equity issue. And these are the type of ways that we can unpack white supremacy and anti-Blackness using your transportation expertise and advocacy, but actually it ends up being bigger than just that. It's a fight for health. Another example of that, and this is a Seattle specific example, and this puts it all together. You'll see on the screen that it says that passenger transportation generated 50% of the GHG emissions in Seattle. So that means transportation is one of the biggest cause of climate change effects in Seattle. But if you also look lower on the screen, you'll see that this is also an issue of equity that relates back to transportation and to health. It says that Seattle's worst air quality exists in communities of color. And also King County households with the lowest incomes are the ones that experience the highest rates of asthma. So when you're out there fighting on transportation, you are out there fighting for health. You're fighting for equity. You're fighting for racial equity and fighting against racial inequities and fighting against the type of racial and health disparities that you see in Black and brown communities, that you're going to see in the state of Washington, that you're going to see in Seattle. So you are bigger than just a transportation professional or advocate. This fight is about health. This fight is about equity. And this fight is a fight that you and I can join together and win on. This also finally relates to what we're hearing about in the news and the unfortunate deaths that we see around the country and around the world vis-a-vis COVID. So Harvard came out with a study showing that exposure to pollution reduces the survival rate of individuals with COVID. And you've all seen the disproportionate deaths, both infections, but also deaths in Black and brown communities and indigenous communities around the country. And that has a definitive effect. If you take this study and think about transportation causing emissions that cause pollution and therefore then lead to these health disparities that cause survival rates to go down. So you can see a direct tie between your transportation advocacy, your transportation work, and these health inequities and negative health outcomes. So you are climate change professionals. You guys are fighting for health. You guys are fighting for equity, and your work, everything that you do on a day-to-day basis, your support of organizations like Transportation Choices. It's bigger than just transportation. It's about climate change. It's about health. It's about health equity. It's about racial inequities. And you guys are right in the middle of this fight. And you can see how that cycle, you can help break this cycle. So, you know, again, thank you for sharing this time. If you haven't already donated to Transportation Choices in this fundraiser, please do help us break this cycle. And I just implore you to think bigger. Think of yourself again as more than just someone working in transportation. You are in a fight. You're in a fight for this planet. You're in a fight for health. And as a matter of fact, you're in a fight for lives. Black lives matter. And I just thank you all for everything that you do. We love collaborating with Transportation Choices, and I hope to see you all soon. Stay well, stay safe, and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Calvin, for your message. I am so glad that he is a friend to TCC, and he has reminded us that we have to fight. We have so much to fight for. We have to show up, we have to advocate and engage at all levels. I loved Calvin's message and I am inspired. And I know that you are too, because my friends behind the scenes have just let me know that we've unlocked 2 match levels. So let's pull the thermometer up on the screen and add $2,000 to our total combined fundraising that we've done tonight. Thank you all so very much. Thank you so much to our match donors. Thanks to the TCC board, Enviro Issues, EMC Research, and Barbara and Dwight. Thank you so very much. This is so fantastic. We are almost done. Our time is almost done together, but let's finish strong. We have one more benchmark to hit at $29,000 and we get that last match. So please, can we do it? Let's finish strong. Let's reach our goal. Text transit to 44321. And thank you to everyone who has come this far with us tonight. Every gift that you give, every event that you attend, every action that you take for transit matters. So let's cross the finish line together. And speaking of, I hear that our buses are almost to Olympia. Let's take it to Olympia. Let's see how they're doing. Roll the footage.
TCC staff are working hard every day for the success of our transit agencies and the riders who depend on them. We're coming up with creative solutions and innovating to solve our most serious obstacles, and we can't do any of it without you. Thank you for standing by us along our journey of getting to our vision of affordable, bikeable, walkable communities connected by great transit.
Who expected that kind of photo finish? Not me. Because everybody wins when we have policies that reduce climate pollution, sustainable revenue sources, and a community transit system that puts people first. You all did an amazing job tonight. There's our fundraising total. Look at it, it just keeps going. I want to say thank you so much. Every dollar raised supports this amazing organization. And together we are going to fight and we are going to accomplish some amazing things. So we are going to leave the giving link open for a few more days. So tell a friend, share it on your social media. Everyone and anyone can answer the call for transit. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for helping us reach our goal. Good night, everybody.